I bet you've seen one of these guys before. And by one of these guys, I mean a monarch butterfly. And if you're like me, when you see this, you think, wow, this animal, or this insect more specifically, is beautiful and very just extraordinarily complex. Now, if you're really like me, you may wonder, where did this come from? And if you don't know, then don't feel bad, because as it turns out, that is not an easy question to answer. Because in order to answer such a question, you'd have to understand the entire lifespan or the entire life cycle of this animal. To do this, for a moment, try to imagine yourself 1 year ago. Now, if you're 8 or 9, as I imagine you might be if you're watching this video, 1 year ago you were most likely smaller, shorter, you would have looked a little different, you may have been slower. Now, for the monarch butterfly, when it imagines itself just 1 month ago, it remembers being something completely different, or more specifically, a caterpillar, which you also might have seen before, although it may have looked a bit different than this caterpillar, and I suppose the same goes for the butterfly. So the big question is, how does this caterpillar become a butterfly? Well, I think the best way to understand this is to compare the life cycle of the butterfly to our own life cycle. You see, this caterpillar is a lot like you in that it is in its youth stage. It is young or early in its life cycle, while this butterfly is a lot like me in that it is in its adult stage, later in its life cycle, in its final stage. However, there is one difference in that while you may refer to me and a butterfly as an adult, I would refer to you as a child being your 8 or 9. But I would refer to a caterpillar as a larva. And so this name serves as a distinction for the type of animal that the butterfly is. And you'll learn why these distinctions exist when you later learn about differences and similarities between different types of animals. Now that we've identified some similarities between ourselves and butterflies, you might think there are more. And as we were talking about where the butterfly comes from, you may have thought, well, where does the caterpillar come from? Or where do we come from? There's a very important similarity between me, you, and the butterfly, and therefore the caterpillar, in that all three of us, or all humans and all butterflies, come from an egg. So what is an egg? Well, an egg is an unborn stage in which the animal undergoes the most basic development before emerging and interacting with the world. This is called birth, being born. So that's where the caterpillar comes from. It hatches from its egg. And before we go on, it's important to note that while we humans do come from eggs, we come from internal eggs, meaning eggs that are inside our mother, as opposed to external eggs, which are the eggs of a caterpillar, which are at first inside the mother, but are then laid before they will eventually hatch. We know now that the larva comes from the egg through a process called birth, or birthing, or more specifically, in this case, hatching. I mentioned that there is a mother of the egg, with the egg known as the offspring. So the offspring of the mother is the egg, or you, or I. We're all offsprings of our mothers. And we were created just as the egg was created by a process called reproduction. So in the next video, we'll talk a little bit about reproduction, its importance in life. We'll finish the life cycle of the butterfly and review in general the stages and how long the stages are for the entire cycle.